All right, hello everybody, and welcome to Fender Play Live. I'm Dylan Caligiuri. Eugene is out this week, so you're stuck with me today, but we've got a fun show. We're going to be talking all about bar chords and open chords, and we're going to tell you how the two interplay with each other and also give you two chances to win a free guitar this week. So let's get to it. Helping me with this topic today is the wonderful, the talented, the magnanimous Dr. Molly Miller.
Hi, Dylan. Can
Molly,
I win
yes.
a free guitar? That's really what I want to know.
You may not win a free guitar. That's right. So Molly is a guitarist who's the chair of the guitar department at Los Angeles College of Music. She just released an awesome solo album, and she's one of our favorite Fender Play Live guests. So welcome back, Molly.
It's so good to be here.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see you here. So can you discuss the guitar that you're holding there, and then give me a little demo of it too, maybe?
Oh, yeah. This is something I bought back at an old spot called Guitar Center in maybe 2000. Yeah, it's a Stratocaster. It's really nothing that fancy, just a U.S.-made, American-made Stratocaster. I wanted it because of Blink-182, because that's what was popular when I was in middle school. So yeah, I'm taking it on tour with me this summer. I'm excited.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah.
I just had it set up, so it's feeling really good. And there's an open chord, and here's a bar chord. And
Already.
here's a little more fun stuff. Oh no, sorry. I thought I clicked the pedal. It's better with shoes on.
Oh. Well, that's gonna lead to a lot of questions. Excellent. And of course, I'm playing this Malibu Classic. It's a parlor-sized guitar. I love parlor-sized guitars because they just fit on me real well. So, anyways, yeah, so let's get right to it. So if you guys have any questions about the topic today, don't be shy. Drop them in the comments, and then we're going to get to them, I promise. So let's start out with hearing some examples of both bar chords and open chords in action. Molly, can you give us a little something that kind of demonstrates both of those?
Yeah, I'm going to play Taylor Swift's Our Song. I'll play the chord progression first using open chords, and then I'm going to use my fancy looper pedal. That makes me very nervous, so if I don't do it perfectly, please forgive me, but I think it'll be okay. So I'll do open chords, bar chords, and then I'll do a little improv on it.
You got it.
Okay, now get ready for these bar chords. I'm going to do 2 layers of them. Next layer.
I love it. Yeah, that was perfect. That was perfect. So if you guys are new to guitar, you're probably going like, that seems really advanced. Now, don't worry. We're going to back up right now. We're going to start from the top. Most of you, except for maybe Molly, what exactly are the differences between open chords and bar chords? A lot of people might not know. So, Molly, can you give me a very basic sort of one-sentence definition of how you would separate open chords and bar chords?
Open chords are down on like the first 3 frets of your guitar. So I'm not really going above there. And they use open strings. So meaning strings that like your fingers aren't on. So when I play a bar chord, every single note is covered by a finger. When I play an open chord, we have this beautiful resonance of open strings.
Right. So a combination of strings that are fretted and then open strings as well. That's perfect. That's an excellent definition. So a couple demos here. So basically, if you're new to guitar, you know, you might be working on C or even this early version of C, right? Or A minor, G, especially if you're on Path and Fender Play. But if you're working on these same chords, what you might not know yet, or you might have seen, is that there are bar chord versions of all these, right? And we had an episode with Molly a while back where we talked about something called the Cage system, which is the really built-out version of this. But we've already got a question. I'm going to ask our producer, SF Kimrush asks, does the shape of the neck matter when you're playing bar chords? That's a good question, Molly.
You know, some necks are easier to play than others. Um, but you know, I think in general, if you just have a guitar that is comfortable to play with action that's a little bit lower, meaning your
Yeah.
strings are closer to the fret, I
Right.
feel like that's a bigger indicator than the
Right.
shaped neck. Like the neck, then it's like if your action is low, strings being lower to the guitar neck, it's easier to fret and produce a sound.
Yeah, and we're going to dig more into actual that kind of the scary bar chord thing here in just a minute. So SF Chemrush, stay tuned. So let's hear a little bit of more of these two chords sort of in context. So
Yeah.
we're looking at what differentiates these two. So I'm going to give you guys a quick example of a song that uses quite a different a variance of both, right? So we've got. So I'm just going to go over those three chords. You can hear the open chords ringing out. Same thing here. Now, arguably, this is an open chord, but it's a pretty unique one, right? Usually you don't hear notes that are voiced that far apart. That's a unique thing about open chords. A very common chord that's a bar chord. So if you're hearing a difference, you can have really far apart voicings when you have an open chord and really close voicings when you have bar chords, with the exception of when you're in the first fret. How about Molly? Can you give an example of those two?
Yeah, and like I think like I feel like you're like the thing that can be confusing is that there's so many of the same. Like here's a C
Right.
chord it's an open chord.
Totally.
You can hear like those open strings ringing, a couple of them, versus like a C bar chord or another
Right.
C bar chord, and they all sound similar, but they're slightly varied with the tonality. Do you want me to play a song that has this, or?
Yeah, it's just a ditty. It's kind of give them an example of the two of them across each
Yeah.
other.
So there's with some open chords, and here's with bar chords, the same sort of thing.
That was perfect. Yeah, ice cream
Yeah.
changes too, so that's perfect. So, can you give us an example of? Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Our producer changed his mind. He changed his mind. So, so basically, we're looking at two of these, and we're moving on to this next example where, Molly, you're going to show us how to play a song with all bar chords and then with all open chords, so that everybody can get an idea. And again, the two concepts here are the different ways you voice the chords.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. And the thing, yeah. So maybe I'll do the example first in the original way. I'll play a Green
Sure.
Day's Basket Case because it's
You got
kind of an iconic bar chord song, meaning no open strings. And then I'll
Okay.
show you an example in the same key. So I'll use a capo.
Yeah.
So you guys can hear the difference between that. So you can hear, I feel like there's a harshness to it. Maybe, I don't know if that's too strong of a word.
Yeah.
But the tonality where it's all, like you were kind of saying, the notes are close together. So it gives it a more close together feel where now I'll do the same thing and I put my capo up here. So we're in the same key. And you hear those open strings ringing. So while like both will totally work, that's the misconception I kind of really want everyone to know is one is not better than the other. They're just different.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, like both of those versions of Basket Case were cool, but one has a different sound with a lot more openness to it with those strings ringing, which gives the whole song a different energy versus the first way I played it with all those closed voicings that had a little more crunch and punch.
Totally. And, if you guys are new to guitar, I think bar chords are a really scary idea, right? And what I challenge you to do is, first of all, just consider, sort of abbreviating this chord. So if you're going after your first bar chord, like in the case of maybe F, if you can't get the whole thing to ring out, just try for the top of the chord. And just let that go for a week. I mean, a lot of this is about just showing up, getting that to be a reflexive thing, and then returning to it over and over and over again. And the same is true of when you're switching from open chords. If you're working on two open chords, you've got a great tool on Fender Play. It's called Chord Challenge. You can basically move between two chords over and over again for maybe 3 minutes, and you'd be surprised. You do that every day, just like the way somebody who's training for the Olympics. You will be you'll have mastery over that very soon. So I've got some questions for you, Molly. So we've got Garrett Weiss is here, and he says, how can using the thumb ease the difficulty of bar chords? That's a great question.
Such a good question. So
Yeah.
what I say is like, it's similar to like picking up a piece of paper or something, or a notebook. Like when I'm picking it up, I'm not pushing on either side. I'm not like really like digging in with my finger or really digging with a thumb, because I think the misconception is you have to push with your thumb.
Yeah.
But instead, I think of it as like this even thing where your thumb is serving as a support system for your fingers, and there shouldn't be strain anywhere. Obviously, it's like awkward when you're first trying to figure out how hard to push, but you shouldn't feel strain. It's more just like an adjustment and a little bit of a physical challenge when diving into these new shapes.
Yeah, it's definitely a sweet spot thing, because once you get everything in its right place and you know how to push power, you don't have to push as hard as you think. That's a great point. We've also got Greg Stimpy here. Hey, Greg, what bar chord is easiest for beginners to learn? So I think beginners tend to get pretty confused when you start getting anywhere past the 5th fret. You start to go, oh, that's too high. The numbers are getting big. And also, the shape down here is a lot bigger. You could argue that maybe F is one of the toughest full bar chords, right?
I think that, yeah.
A might be one of the easiest bar chords to pick up. And if you look at an E chord, an open E chord, if you've mastered that at this point, if you were to make that with these 3 fingers instead, and then move that shape up to the 7th fret, you'd have your A chord, and you could set the bar behind it. So that's probably one of the easiest ones to start with. Molly, what do you think?
Yeah, I think actually that it's interesting, and I want to do one other like kind of like hot tip or whatever thing to look out for with these bar chords.
Hot tip.
Because like you said A, and I was thinking the minor shape off the 5th string, and you said the 6th string first, like off the 6th string, this shape, which is like based off your E shape, like Dylan was saying, when moved up. The thing that's really confusing is that the same exact shape, this like, if I'm on the 5th fret, with my first finger 5th fret, 6th string, it's an A chord. If I move the same thing down 1 fret, it becomes a minor chord.
One string, you mean, one string. It goes from A major.
I'm so distracted by my E string being so out. I don't know how that happened. But yeah. So like the confusing thing is same shape, major on the 6th when it's off the 6th string, minor when it's based off the 5th string.
One more confusing aspect of guitar, right? Of course.
But once you master it, it's not confusing.
It's not. That's right. And its process leads to mastery. So pick something small. A lot of people underestimate or overestimate what they can do in a day on guitar and underestimate what they could do in a month or a year. So pick small goals and take small rewards. I promise it'll work. Matt B says, so I can't see because of the, here we go. So do bar chords in general always sound a bit thinner? Interesting, Matt. Wow. You know what? You could certainly argue that because the notes are sort of capoed by your finger, that they're not as loud. They're not able to sort of vibrate as well as the open. I've never thought about that in the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know, it's funny. Like, I think it's so much of it, it's not just the chord, but like how you touch it and how many strings. Like I can play a big like open chord and just play a couple notes.
Totally.
And same thing with like a big, that was a big bar chord. I can play a big open chord, same thing, and just play a couple notes. So I feel like it's an interesting question.
Yeah, now I'm gonna do the same thing for you guys. I'm gonna play a song with all bar chords, and then I'm gonna play with all open chords, and listen closely for the differences. Also notice if you're visually looking at the differences. And the big thing here is if you're new, to not get discouraged by the idea of a new open chord or a new bar chord. Use the tools and also set a goal for the day that's a very reasonable goal that makes you feel like you got something done, right? That's one of the biggest parts of this. Yeah. So here we go. So I'm going to play Hallelujah, and I'll do it with bar chords first. So let's see. So,
pretty.
yeah, and you know what's cool about bar chords is you get this really sort of pianoistic character, and you can move through a lot of different keys. So that's something that's new to you. Generally, songs that are written on guitar, usually probably in an open string key, not always, but songs that are written for saxophone or other instruments like R&B songs, we're going to get to genres in just a minute, they tend to be written in what's called horn keys to someone like Molly and I, which are like F and A flat. Then you need bar chords. So here's the same progression with open. Just play a little bit of it. So as you can see, there's a whole different character to the way that the voices move together. Now, both of the songs that we played, both Hallelujah and Basket Case, and the song that Molly played earlier, our song, they're all on the site. So moving right along, don't forget to ask us questions if you have anything, guys. Genres. So one of the interesting things about bar chords versus open chords is that certain genres tend to prefer one to the other. Now, not always, but quite often. What genres do you think work best with bar chords, and what genres do you think work best with open chords? And if you're in the audience, feel free to answer that as well. But Molly, can you talk a little bit about that?
I mean, it's interesting because like when Dylan and I were talking about this before, it's like there's not always a rule around this, where like typically like folk songs sound great, or country songs with these like open with these open chords, things like that. You know, you think of them as more like campfire songs, but sometimes in other genres, they sound great, especially like layering, because that thing I did at the beginning with our song, I played open chords and bar chords. They're not like either or. Sometimes they like, maybe Dylan and I are jamming together. It's cool if he plays open and I play bar.
Right.
And so, you know, so they're not necessarily like, they're actually friends, and they can be symbiotic and things that work together. But back to that, your question, like when I think of rock music, like Basket Case, if I play Basket Case, yeah, I can put a capo on and and play it with open chords, but it's going to sound more authentic if I play rock and roll using more bar chords. Or like we were talking about like reggae, if I'm doing those like chopped guitar parts, the open chords, like the resonance in the string would ring for too long. So like I'd want to use a bar chord instead of it's harder to get those strings to stop. So
That's a really great point. There's a great lesson on that on Fender Play called stopping sound with your fret hand, stopping sound with your strum hand. I want to ask you a couple of questions because the audience is going wild about this. So I've got a comment from Rich Spencer in the Facebook community. Ska works better with bar chords. I think judges? Yes, they agree. Okay, good. Now, another good question from Harshini. That's the best I can do with Harshini. Is it easier to play bar chords on the electric because the action is lower, right? Upward ending question. I think, what do you...
Yeah, I think so. And it's so interesting because like someone will be like, what's easier, acoustic or electric? What's easier, bar or open? And all these things where some of them are dependent, and I think a lot of it has to do with your setup of your guitar. So when you get your Fender guitar, be sure that like it's just set up well. Like oftentimes people will be playing guitar and they're like, it's so hard. I'm like, well, that's because your action's crazy high. Right.
So I want to do a little example here. So we'll talk about a few genres. So let's take example for a country song. So I'm going to play some chords in a country song, and I'm going to ask Molly to voice higher as though I'm accompanying her. So I'm going to play G, and then F, and then C. So she's going to play higher chords. I'm playing open chords. She's going to play bar chords. Let's do it. Here, I'll just play open for you, Molly. Ready?
Okay.
Let's do it again. So if you guys can see that, she's accessing using hinge bars and tiny little bars, and she's able to access different points in the neck and play the same chords that I'm playing with the open string, and they work together quite well, right? So when we're talking about different genres, like for instance R&B or pop music of the 90s, perhaps, there it is.
My heart's fluttering.
When we're talking about those styles, you're looking at the same type of thing. If we're playing in a horn key again, so I'll play a song from the side. It's called Fly by Sugar Ray. So you guys can see I'm playing off the 4th fret. I'm playing A flat that's going to D flat. And I'm cheating a little bit. I'm not necessarily doing the classical guitar E flat. But switching between these two chords, if you're new, it looks probably impossible. And I'll tell you what it is making this reflexive. Making this to where every time you go to you visualize and then you get those on there. That's going to be the real trick. If you think about LeBron James on the court, the reason that he can do what he does is not because he's still working on his basic technique. He's thinking 5 steps ahead, like a chess player. So it's really about building these reflexive, actions with this, and that's excellent tools that are on the Fender Tune app as well as the Chord Challenge on Fender Play work. But Molly, can you talk a little bit about how you built these reflexive abilities to make these chords? And I have another question for you.
Yeah. It's repetition, like you were saying, LeBron James, where it's like I always tell my students, and when I was learning too, and even when I'm learning, like still when I'm learning something that feels challenging, I slow it way down and just go back and forth between them. And you said this in the beginning of the lesson, like if you do it for a couple minutes a day for like a week or 2 weeks, you will be shocked at how much better you get just going or A flat to D flat. Yeah. A flat to D flat. If you do that like 15 times a day for a week or really for a couple minutes, like you will get better. That's all it is. It's just like patience and time. Patience and time
for process and mastery. So Molly, we've got some more questions here. We've got Lauren who's asking, transitioning into a bar chord is a really tough part of playing. I am playing a song that goes from A to B minor to F sharp minor, and that's really hard. Any tips? Molly, you want to take that? A, B minor, F sharp minor.
Yeah. I mean, I think number one, repetition and patience. Like I do think those things are important, but also like playing, I don't know which, I'll do this F sharp minor, for example. Like this is a super challenging chord when you're first playing, but I think thinking about the pressure points and so going slow and picking it one note at a time to hear like what your trouble spots are. I'm like, oh, I'm not pushing down hard enough on my 3rd string.
Yeah.
And then instead of just like, I'm not just like going to push on my thumb or push on the tip of my finger, I'll kind of focus my energy into the problem spot. And one other tip is it, like Dylan mentioned earlier, barring the chords lower, like on the 1st and 2nd fret is harder than like on the 10th fret. So maybe start on the 10th fret or the 8th fret and then like see how that feels and then work your way down.
Totally, yeah. So Molly's talking about take that shape and practice moving it around. It might be easier for up on the 9th fret for you than it is at the 2nd fret. But really, mastering one thing at a time is sometimes really tricky. Find out what works for you. And one thing might be the carrot or the stick idea. Are you beating yourself up about what you can't do more than you are encouraging yourself about what you could do? So really thinking about what's possible helps you develop neuron relationships between your brain and your hands. And that's as much of a part of this as any real tip that anybody could give you. It's just maybe give yourself a break, let yourself see a year into the future and not a day into the future and decide that you're going to go for that goal and not the one that's just right here. So we have a special request from the producer that we trade off and do some more advanced, advanced open bar and open chord playing. So I'll start.
Twiddly-dum stuff?
That's right. Yeah, she wants more advanced. So if you want, he says, well, it's too late now. It's the Fender Play Challenge. So let's see. All right, so there was a bunch of random chords put together, right? I don't know what happened.
The beginning sounded like a theme song. I thought that was like the beginning of the theme song for like more challenging stuff.
Yeah. Okay, Molly, you take it away. You take it.
Okay. Well, maybe. So here's like I'll do some more stuff within within bar. So here's like a bar chord, and like within this E minor like bar chord, I'm doing some fancy stuff. Or D. And then, you can like keep growing from these bar and open chords. Like instead of just playing C, how about like C major 7 and then doing some like pretty stuff within it. But a lot of this, of what I'm doing, did just start from like bar chords and open chords, and seeing the shapes. seeing the shapes and then just getting comfortable within the shapes first and then growing from there. It is like a one-step thing where it's like, okay, here's a C chord and then let's make it a little fancier.
Absolutely.
Well, that's pretty. And just growing from there.
Molly, we've got a shout out for you from John Walker. It says, Molly, I listened to your album over the weekend while camping this weekend, and it's beautiful. Yes. Beautiful playing. John Waller. I'm sorry, John Waller. John Walker's a completely different subject. Thank you so much, John. That's fantastic.
Thank you, John. That makes me happy.
Yeah, so let's put a button on this. So both types of chord voicings, which really that's what we're talking about. We're thinking of voicings like you've got a soprano, alto, tenor, and bass singer. And when you voice a chord, you can voice it in many different ways, right? And that's what we've been talking about quite a bit. And that's the difference between an open and a bar chord version of the same chord. It's just the voicing, where you arrange that soprano, alto, tenor, and bass singer. If you mix them up, you put the bass on the top or the alto on the, et cetera, et cetera. So they all have a distinct use case and application scenarios. However, the important part is that chord voicings deserve equal weight in your study. So if you think you've mastered open chords, try playing something that's further up the neck. Maybe try using the cage system and learning how to put those chords in your playing. If you think that you've mastered bar chords, which probably most people don't think that, go for some big, huge bar chords. Try doing something that's really that have a lot of challenges in it, and I think you'll discover that there's just an endless amount of things. You're never done. Which is a good thing too. But Molly, you have a button on this that you can put on it?
Yeah, when you were now, I just lost my train of thought. I was like, oh, I have something to say, and then I got so involved in what you were saying.
Well, I was just wrapping up.
Yeah, really, it's like I think both are important. Neither are better, but as just like your development as a guitarist, don't be afraid of bar chords. Yeah. They hurt and they suck at first. But then once you get them, you're like, oh, they're mellow, they're chill. Like, I got this. So really just like, I feel like the emphasis is just do them, learn your bar chords, learn your open chords, because both are going to be helpful. Oh, this is what I was going to say. Because guitar can feel confusing at first when you're like, what? There's like 3 C's just with open and bar chords. And it can feel overwhelming. But I think initially just be like, it comes down to options, and it gives you more options and more flexibility and more things you can do with this amazing thing.
Yeah, and keep the carrot and lose the stick. All right, so here's some homework. Take this home with you. Check out the site. There's tons of resources, for learning both bar chords, open chords, and switching. So if you're a beginner, take your first shot at the 4-finger G chord, right? And if you've already got that down, try the F, which is the kind of the intro to barring if you're on path. Sorry, the F with that little hinge bar there. If you're intermediate, go for the first bar chord. Or if you've already done that, try the next family of bar chords. So like Molly could show you, there's major, minor 7th, dominant 7th. So these are all different types of bar chords that you'll continue to learn as you're improving and growing. And if you're advanced, so tackle a bar chord that's been giving you trouble. And really common ones are like the one that's on, which is A major 9, A add 9. I'm sorry. That's a tough one. Even if you go down to F sharp minor 9, you basically have to borrow someone else's fingers, or learn how to move an open chord up the neck using the cage system. So C, 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 and C. And check out the cage collection that we've got on the site. So we're going to move on. We're going to give some stuff away. Are you ready, Molly? Are you ready? This is a big deal.
I want some stuff, yeah.
Okay, here we go. So we've got 2 giveaways today, so pay close attention. The first one, it's already live on the site. I told you guys about it last week, but to celebrate our 4-year anniversary, we're giving away 4 guitars this month, 1 a week, and it's a signature guitar from 4 very special artists. We're starting with the Her guitar. I believe we're moving to Albert Hammond Jr. next week. So check out the link in the description on this video. If you're on the site, if you're a member of Fender Play, that should be already something you're headed towards. But catch all the details there. So also, we have our weekly giveaway, right? Every week we give away a guitar to a lucky Fender Play subscriber simply for using Fender Play for 3 7-minute sessions a week. And that could be your chord switching, you're learning your new bar chords, etc. They get to pick from guitars, amps. We don't have any harmonicas, I think, but there's tons of stuff on there. You'll see. So make sure you get your 21 minutes in a week, and I'll get to call your name out. Are you guys ready to hear who won this weekend? Molly, Can you give me some sort of fanfare type of some... Oh, yeah, this is good. It's Melissa M. Melissa M. Oh! I knew it was going to be Melissa. I knew it. So we've got new stuff on the site. New stuff constantly. Check out the songs tab. There's always under what's new, you see the new stuff. We've got the Her collection. So if you go to the collections page, you check out the Her. We shot those at the studio. We got the guitar up there. It's fantastic. It's definitely worth checking out. I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Molly for being here because she really helped us put a button on this subject of open chords versus bar chords, right? And the goal here is just don't be intimidated by either one. Molly, do you have anything you want to plug here in terms of what's coming up on your radar?
Yeah. Well, like Dylan said at the top, I have a new record with my trio, Molly Miller Trio, called St. George. So check that out. You can follow me on Instagram. I'm Moody Mill, or just look me up, Molly Miller Guitar. Easy to find. But check that record out, Molly Miller Trio. I'm going to be on tour this summer with Jason Mraz playing this guy. And I think that album drops Friday, too. So check that out.
Watch out.
Featured. Yeah, the single comes out next week that I'm featured on, Be Where Your Feet Are.
Oh, it's perfect. All right. Well, keep safe. Keep practicing. Everybody, we'll see you next week. Thanks so much for being here. And let's go out on a G chord. Are you ready? I'll do the open. You do the bar.
I'll do
Here
a
we
high
go.
bar.
Ready, set, go.